Welcome to the World of Horror podcast with Mom and Mac. I'm Mom.
And I'm Mac.
This is the podcast where we share our love of international horror, disclaimers for adult language, and spoilers. Hi, Mac. How's it going?
Hi, Mom. It's going pretty well. I had an all right week, and I've started a new thing where on Fridays I get dinner with my friend Minermal, and we try different places in our town. And I really realized that, like, repeated, set times of hangs are what people should have. Because I feel like you can love somebody so much, but the comfort comes with, like, repeated, contact. So that's really nice to have that, because working from home, not really talking to people at my job, I think it can get lonely. So, and also this is really great to be talking with you and doing the pod. That is also really awesome. So I think I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
That's great. I'm doing okay. Right before we got on, I was in my studio working on a couple of projects. So it's kind of crowded down there. My eventual plan is to turn the whole basement into an art studio. But that would mean I would have to bring all of my workout equipment upstairs, put in the guest room. So that means I have to clear the guest room out. And I had a bunch of art stuff in there, stuff I wanted to sell. And so I brought that in here, which meant that I had to clear out most of my books. So I did that yesterday. So
good for you.
I'm just sort of getting used to, this new space. And then this summer, I want to do all the rest of that stuff. But I feel so good when I do art. It just like calms my brain down. And that's when I feel like the most me, when I'm doing that. So that felt really good. And it's so great to talk to you again. We haven't talked for a while.
I know.
So I'm doing pretty well.
April's going to be the month of Mom and Mac.
I know. Yeah. We got a sort of a packed month. We got our podcast, and then we've got my birthday, and then we've got the Korean festival at the end of the month.
I had forgotten about that. So when you told me, I was like, yes, I'm so excited to eat all the Korean food and spend all my money.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I can't wait. Even though that's somewhere I would go to be in a crowd of people. I don't mind.
Yes.
That.
Yeah. I feel like, when it's a purpose, and I feel like when it comes to some convention stuff, I think people have some sense. Like, there's some places you go and in crowds, it feels like I don't know what's going to happen. And that's what I don't like. But when I was looking at videos of Japan the other day, I just realized, like, I think Japan might be somebody who's afraid of crowds. It might be a paradise, because like everybody just seems like they know where to go, what to do, and that we're not here for any bullshit. I know part of that is the whole, like, the nail that sticks out gets hammered down, and that's not great for people's psyche. But looking at it on the outside looking in, I think, like, wow, that looks so great. Like, I feel like I could be in a crowd and not be terrified for my life.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I felt like that way in South Korea. I didn't feel that way in China, I have to say.
Yeah.
Especially like crossing a busy road in China. It's just
chaos.
For all. Yeah. And you see like a little kid like just crossing the road and you want to stop and like grab their hand or something, but they know what they're doing. I didn't know what I was doing, and so I felt very nervous and like anything could happen. But I'm sure, there's a system. I just didn't know what it was.
It's like, I wish every country you could just immediately have a friend who would be like, let me show you the way. Like, I'm not talking a tour guide. I mean somebody who loves me. Like, this is why when in my Japanese class, whenever I would see some of these dudes with Japanese wives that would not be trying, I would get so freaking mad, because they don't realize how lucky they are. They have somebody who loves them, who they can talk to in Japanese, who will be like, honey, that's not how you say that,
Yeah.
People pay so much money for that, and you have a person who loves you doing it for free out of the kindness of their heart. That's great.
Yeah, I always thought it'd be so cool to be in a couple and like have your own language. And it would be like something like Turkish or something that like, not a lot of people know
Mm.
outside of the country. I just thought that would be like super fun. Yeah. My Korean has completely fallen off. I mean, I was like looking at these books and stuff, and I kept all my Korean stuff like, easily accessible, but it's going to be weeks before I can get back to it.
Yeah, I'm a little bit out of practice. I know I have to just change my whole schedule to, include it, but my brain, like, it's like also with grief, I feel like there are some days where you feel like, you know what? Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. And then out of nowhere, it'll just be like, actually, I feel like shit. And then for a second, you're like, why is that? And you're like, oh, it was the dead dad. That's what did it.
Oh my gosh, Mac. I don't know if you want me to cut that, but we haven't made any kind of announcement
Oh,
or anything.
by the way, WoHos. uh, for those who may not know, my dad passed away. I'm sorry. I don't know why I said it like that. It's such a weird thing to. I don't know why it's so weird to talk about because it's not, but it feels like it is. But yes, and that is like 99% of why we took a break because I simply was like, well, what's amazing is that anytime I used to have a really big sense of like, you're not doing anything. What's wrong with you? But now that voice is dead because every time that voice
Wow.
tries to come up, I'm like, our dad died. And then it's like, oh, you're right, boss. All right, I'll get back to work. So that's kind of nice. I mean, it's not, but like, I'm glad I'm giving myself that.
I think it's good to see the good, even in like really horrible situations.
Me too.
And my brain was obliterated when my dad died. And, you had a completely different relationship with your dad than I had with my dad, but still. And I asked my friend, and I really couldn't think for like 3 days. Like I was non functional.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked somebody, how long do I get to like milk this, And she said, forever, And I thought, oh, well, damn it.
All right.
I will.
I know. Yeah, I do think it's true because I mean the sad stuff will be forever. So you definitely get to milk it forever. But yeah, I feel like I love seeing or I try to see the good in stuff. So I've been trying to think of like all these conversations I've been having with people that never could have happened otherwise and things that I'm learning that I think are good. Like for me, I think just communication to me is like the utmost best thing we could all be doing better. And so the fact that some stuff can only freely flow, like, okay, I don't know if Freud said this. I feel like Freud's saying something like this, but I do feel as though a human also can't totally be free in a sense until their parents pass away. Does this like, and that sounds like such a fucked up thing to say because obviously I did not want that to happen and I don't want this to happen, but like also, I mean, I feel like it is true, you know?
Yeah, I think our parents have a profound impact on who we are as people. And after they die, it's sort of like, wow, I really put myself through the ringer, especially as an adult. I mean, you can't really help it when you're a child, but after you're an adult, and you get to be in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and you're still sort of this child, after they pass, it's sort of like, oh, wow, I didn't need to do that. So I think you're right.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you don't need to do that. I mean, I don't need to die for you,
No, yes.
to do that. But I
You know,
really
yeah.
felt, yeah, I do feel kind of a sick relief or just a relief. I don't know how to put it. And both my parents are dead. And yeah, I think there is a relief in it.
Yeah. And I think it's honestly, I do feel like it's valid. I feel like yeah, people just don't want to talk about death and stuff. And like, I think it makes people uncomfortable. And it's like, and there's like no way around it because if you don't know, you don't know. And it's not like I want people to know. Like, everybody's going to know eventually, probably. Or I guess it's almost a blessing in a way that you got to outlive them. I don't know. And, but anyways, like, before my dad died, when my friends' parents, like I've had a few friends whose parents have passed away, you think like, well, when they need help, they'll reach out and stuff because you're just so like, what do I say? But now I realize that it's like, nah, like just any sort of love you can like give somebody, I feel like is very good. Um, and there's no doing it wrong. Like I had a friend called me like the day she found out, like immediately got down and called me. And that's something that I feel like I would have been too scared to do. And even at the time I was like, oh, God, I don't want to take this. But like I did because I was like, that's very nice of her. And so yeah, I don't think there's doing anything wrong either. I mean, obviously if you were like, hey friend, tell me about the dead dad, like that would be weird. But like just reaching out to a friend, I feel like is a good thing. But yeah, so there's like just things I feel like you don't know until you know. Kind of rambling. But yeah, um, just like also like I know people say this, but it really hits me home now. Just like fuck cancer. Like it is just like worst. Just yeah, I hate it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But okay, let's change the topic.
I don't know how to tie cancer into Eden Lake, but
Hmm.
fuck those kids, man.
So Eden Lake is a film. Well, our theme this week is forest horror. Forest horror. That if you have a NC accent, you might say forest horror. And it's like Alan's dad has the thickest Eastern North Carolina accent, and him and Alan's mom were just laughing once, talking about somebody saying, or me saying Tarboro. They were like, huh, you know how we say it, Tarboro. They just got a kick out of that. And the lady in this, Kelly Riley, does she not kind of look like the lady in The Vanishing? A little bit.
I was so annoyed by her
Me
that
too.
if she did, I wouldn't have been able to see it.
You're just like, fuck this lady.
Oh man. And I think she's a pretty successful actor and stuff.
Really?
I looked her up, and I think she's on a show like Yellowstone or
Oh.
something, and that's pretty big. But I don't watch, so I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. She was kind of annoying to me, but maybe.
Well, so Eden Lake is a movie. Here's a short plot summary from IMDb. When a couple goes to a remote lake for a romantic getaway, their quiet weekend is shattered by an aggressive group of kids. Rowdiness quickly turns to rage as the teens terrorize them, and a weekend outing becomes a battle for survival. It was written and directed by James Watkins, starring Kelly Riley, Michael Fassbender, Jack O'Connell, James Gandhi, Thomas Turgoose, great name, Bronson Webb, Sean Dooley, and Finn Atkins, with cinematography by Christopher Ross, edited by John Harris, and music by David Julien. It was released August 12th, 2008 at Fantasy Film Fest, and then September 12th, 2008 in the UK, with a runtime of 91 minutes, and I'll tell you what, That's a good run time. I also watched it on 1.5 speed. That's a good speed.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And when I try for a second, I was like, am I doing too much? And then I put it back down to 1 speed. I was like, then it was like the point of no return. I had to put it on back on 1.5. When you put it on 1.5 and you go back, you're like, people talk this slowly.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that even though it was a really short movie, it really dragged in places. So,
Yeah. And the plot also doesn't entirely make sense.
no.
And it's also a bit frustrating. Well,
Yeah.
to begin, we meet Ms. Jenny Greengrass, which, holy shit, I did not know that was her name. That's a dumbass name. I think like Verdant would have been a cool last name.
Oh, that
But
is a
like
cool last name.
Greengrass. Jenny Verdant. Ooh, who's she? Well, she is an elementary school teacher. We see her teaching these little kids. So we know first off, she knows about kids and she likes kids. She goes to her partner, Steve Taylor, Mr. Fassbender, in his car, and they are going to go for a weekend getaway at Eden Lake, which is a remote spot in the English countryside. Steven says, well, we have to go now because it's all going to get bulldozed, and it's a really awesome quarry, I swear. But even from the get, it's kind of, they're having fun in spite of it all. They're like, we get a little ominous premonition from a radio story that's talking about the state of youth in England. And they're at an Airbnb, or sorry, Airbnb. Oh my God. They're at a bed and breakfast. My mind is poisoned. They're at a bed and breakfast, and it's just, I guess, like British white trash. I'm sorry, I don't know if that's offensive, but that, I feel like that is the vibe of just, people being rowdy. There's like an obnoxious child running around, and hold on, excuse me.
Oh, hello, Luffy. Luffy has joined the podcast.
Hello, my son. Okay. He does this while I work.
He's trying to eat the mic.
He's such a sweet boy. So he says this kid needs a damn slap. But then he's horrified, and Jenny is too, when the child's mother actually does just slap him. And I think this is maybe one of the best scenes in the movie, because I feel like we've all kind of been in a situation like this where then like the woman slaps the kid and everything kind of goes like silent, and then neither of them can look at the woman because she kind of looks at them like a challenge, like, yeah, and what are you going to do about it? And I don't know if I've necessarily been in a situation where I've seen a child actually be like struck like that, but I've definitely seen, a parent like grab a kid's arm and stuff while the kid's freaking out. And you just know that's not going to do anything. Like, I was actually saying, me and Minerva were talking yesterday that like as we get older, it actually makes less sense how adults treated us when we were kids, because I see the way kids are. And I'm not saying like, I'm saying like teachers sometimes would just do way too much. And when I look at a kid now, I'm just like, I could definitely see, if it was like I had to deal with a kid running around all day, I was tired from work, I see how it happens. But at the same time, that they're not thinking, how do I piss this? Well, when they get older, they might think that, but like a really little kid is just being a kid. And so, yeah, it's just awkward for these two, which I think is much to Steve's chagrin, because he is planning to propose to Jenny, and he kind of penned this as like this amazing getaway. But they go to their little room, and it's really loud, but they still, I don't know, have sex. So the next day they arrive at Eden Lake, and Steve's like, no, it's not Eden Lake. It's whatever quarry, but it's a planned development for executive homes, and a great little like I do love I wondered how they set up this construction site. I guess they would only need to put up a fence, but they drive past the sign, and on the back it says like, fuck off, yuppie cunts.
Yeah.
Um, and they get to, where construction is blocking off and he's like, oh, I know a shortcut. If a man says he knows a shortcut in the forest, don't go. That should actually, that's another key thing between these two films is men saying they know where to go. And I mean, he does know where to go. They go to the little quarry. And it's cute. It looks nice. I think if I went with somebody and they made such a big deal, I think Jenny's being very nice about it. Like she's being
Champ.
such a champ.
But she had said something a little snarky earlier. She's like, some people's boyfriends take them to Paris for vacation. I get to go to a quarry with my boyfriend. And I was like,
yeah. Okay, bitch.
all right,
Tell us how you
bitch.
really feel. Like, this is a spot from his younger days. I think it is sweet. Like the idea of like, there's a beautiful view I want to show you. I think if somebody said that to me, that would touch my heart.
Yeah, me too.
And so they see this kid, Adam. He's a studious looking kid in the woods. And Jenny, immediately goes up and tries to talk to him, but he just goes, my mother told me not to talk to strangers. And she's like, listen to your mom. And so then they walk off kind of laughing. And so they're pitching up a tent at the beach, but they're disrupted by a gang of rowdy teenagers, led by their, psychopathic leader, Brett. And they notice them bullying that kid, Adam, who's obviously doing some sort of homework. He's got like a jar with bugs. And then they also let their Rottweiler off the leash. And I do like this scene because first, they kind of both just lay back on the beach and try to ignore it. But then the dog just barks right next to the woman's head. And that would freak me out. I'm kind of scared of dogs. So Steve does not make the situation any better. Because Jenny even says, like, let's just leave. And he goes, well, we were here first. Honestly, red flag number one. If I told my boyfriend, hey, I don't want to be next to these kids, because that's really what you're saying is let's just go, like, there's no, like, fairness, in my opinion. Like, the world ain't fair, bud. So just pack up and go somewhere else. Listen to the woman. So he goes over there and, tries to make a complaint to them, but they're just like, fuck off. No. And even as they walk by, Brett like pulls his dick out and just is waving it
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And we get a good shot of Jenny like seeing it and like turning away. And they're just laughing at these two. I mean, if it was me, I wouldn't even want to stay at the beach there, knowing that they know where we are. Because honestly, I've never been made, well, I don't know if I've ever been made fun of by teenagers, but I am afraid of them. I do feel like there's no, they don't, if they're not scared by your authority, you have no power. You are outnumbered. Yeah. And I looked in the comments and, cause I watched this on YouTube, and it was interesting. There was one guy who said like, this kind of thing is a fear of mine because I'm 50 and I know I could not take a bunch of teenagers. So to know that I wouldn't be able to protect my wife, is a scary idea. But yeah, if it was me, I would just be like, babe, I feel like I would say, let's just laugh about it and go somewhere else. But they don't do that. They pitch up a tent. And during the night, Jenny feels like there's a presence outside, but fucking Steve doesn't think so. And he uses that chance to scare Jenny and the audience. And neither she nor I appreciate it. So the next morning, they discover their food supplies are infested with insects, and one of their tires has been punctured. So Steve, again, instead of leaving, like that just tells you, fuck off, yuppie cunts. Like,
yes,
I would be like, heard. Oh, thank you. But he doesn't do that. He decides to chase the gang into town. And then at a local restaurant, he describes the gang to a waitress, who at first, is kind of like, oh yeah, they give you trouble. And he's kind of like, yeah, they did. And she's like, well, my kids wouldn't hurt anyone. And then it's no smiles or joking. Again, everything is just saying leave. And then he sees the kids on bikes and he freaking parks right in front of their driveway, sneaks into their house that he believes belongs to the teens. But, and as, girlfriend's in the car, this guy pulls up and is like, get the fuck out of my driveway. So she has to pull around, which that did happen to me once. One time we had like a danger of a gas leak at an apartment. So we packed Brandon up and we were just sitting in somebody's parking spot, and Alan was going to check to see if we could go back. And these people came up and were like, get out of our spot. And I was like, hey, there's like a gas leak in my apartment. Can I just, and they were like, no, get out. That's just rude. Anyways. So now he's like, fuck, trying to get out, but he like leaves from the window. Again, I'm a broken record. So back at the lake, the couple frolics, and then they discover that their bag is missing right as Steve's about to propose. And that bag also had the car keys in it. And they look and the Jeep is gone. I do love Michael Fassbender going to check it, and he's like, fuck. He just has a little freak out.
I wanted to ask you, because, at one time you were a huge Fassbender fan, and, you watched the Days of Future Past or whatever that movie was.
Yeah. X-Men First Class.
And Inglourious Basterds a bunch.
Yes,
and,
I did.
So he was 30 years old. They both were 30 years old when this movie was made. And so I was wondering, do you think this is a more attractive or less attractive version of Fassbender than the one that exists today?
I'll be honest. I've heard some like not so good things about him, that he might be a bad man. And it would, like, anytime I hear that about any man, it doesn't shock me. So also, the fact that he was 30, I don't mean to be rude, but that is kind of crazy. He must have been living a hard life for a while.
Well, they were the same age. I want to say maybe he was 34, but I mean, they were very young when they made this film. They're the same age.
He looks a lot older. Yeah, I mean, I guess, I don't know. It's hard for me to find him attractive now ever since I heard about that.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
But though it's interestingly, there's like a preview for, he's in a movie with Cate Blanchett now, and he looks just like, I feel like they saw him in X-Men First Class and they were like, let's just do that again. Cause he is wearing like a black turtleneck, has like a weird kind of half German accent. And, but I feel like he found his niche. So good for him. I guess, maybe not. What do you think?
Well, I don't know anything about him as a person, but I find him more attractive now.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are very handsome as they age. I feel like men have it real good in this world because, like, Alan kind of had his first time of a woman like flirting with him, and I told him, "Hey, get used to that continuing to happen because as you get older, I feel like like an older man who's kind and has his life together is like a beacon,
Yes.
So I was like, you're gonna get lots of people hitting on you, boy." And I think some old ladies have been hitting on me, and it's nice. It's so much better than a man.
I know. You told me that the last time we saw each other, and I just was so happy for you.
It's nice because like, just dudes in the world. I listen. I know no male WoHos would be like this, hopefully, but if you're a man, can you just like chill? I just feel like men in the world should like calm down a little bit because. Like, I saw a guy yesterday with his, like, children, and he had a shirt that just had an AK-47 on it. And it's like, why is this necessary? who's coming for you? Okay? You're at the pizza place getting some slices with your family. We don't need to bring the AK into this.
Yeah.
It's such a... Ugh.
Jeez.
I just find guns so weird. I find them more weird after shooting one. Like, I had some friends tell me, like, well, there's nothing like the feeling of shooting a gun. And yeah, that's true. Because I did go with my dad to the shooting range before he passed because he randomly got very into guns. And yeah, I was like, I hate this actually. Like, I hate having something that is like only made for killing. So I just don't get it.
Yeah, my boyfriend wants me to learn how to shoot a gun, and I couldn't be less interested.
No,
But
thank you.
yeah, no, thank you, but I probably will.
I want to learn self-defense. Like, I do feel like that would make me feel more confident, but I just feel like less guns on the street would be good for everybody.
Yes, I agree.
Like, it's so crazy. Like in so many Japanese stories where a plot point is like, oh, it's so crazy. This person has a gun. Like it still would be crazy. Like sometimes my dad, apropos of nothing, would just be like, by the way, and then just show me the gun he had on him. And I'd be like, why? Why do you have this? So yeah, I'm jealous of people who it's like, wow, a gun, that would be so crazy. I wish.
Yeah, I think we're going to come back to guns when we talk about the next movie.
Mm-hmm. So they walk through the forest and eventually avoid a collision with Brett, who has stolen the Jeep and is rocking Michael Fassbender's shades. And that there's no way to make a man feel more emasculated than if you take his Jeep and his Ray-Bans. So they find the rest of the gang in the woods around nightfall, and Steve threatens them. But then the gang starts pulling out knives, and in the scuffle, Brett's dog is stabbed, which then sends Brett into a rage. And honestly, yeah, I just feel like I don't know what. Well, see, I wouldn't have been in this situation. The couple tries to flee, but then the gang causes them to crash the Jeep. Steve is trapped by a tree branch, and he encourages Jenny to go out and get for help. But she doesn't do that. And she hides and takes a nice little nap for the entire night. And this is a big point of contention for many people watching this movie, is so many people in the comments are like, why did this bitch not leave now? It is dark in the woods and she doesn't know where she is. So, I mean, I do think it's kind of dumb to walk in the woods alone at night. But also I see their point of maybe more of this movie could have been avoided. So at daybreak, Jenny witnesses Steve being tied to a rock with barbed wire. And Brett, psychopath that he is, gets his little girlfriend to record on her slide-up phone, which has to be the worst quality video of all time. We never get to see it, but it has to be like, I don't even know if this could implicate anybody, because like, this looks like it was filmed with a potato. And he orders each member of the gang to stab and slash Steve on camera so that they'll all be implicated. And there are a ton of like younger kids in the group who are like, hey man, we don't want to do this. But he literally forces one kid's hand to make him like cut out his tongue, which I don't think he actually cuts out his tongue, but he cuts his mouth in some way. And so Jenny manages to connect to Steve's phone with the blue. This part I didn't understand either.
I don't get this part either. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, why don't you call it then? Like,
yeah.
Maybe his phone has like a special GPS thing, but they don't explain this. So we don't know why. So she tries to connect to his phone and call 999, but Brett has his phone. So that makes him realize Jenny is close by and they chase her. So she does have a moment of badassery when she causes the kids to crash their bikes and she hides on top of a little construction hut. Steve frees himself and then almost kills her because she rounds a corner and he thinks that she's another kid. But luckily he doesn't, though this is kind of a foreshadowing. And they hide in and then under a shed in some water, but Steve is clearly dying. They show a really nasty part with like he's got a huge stab wound in his side, and he is even saying like, "Oh God, it's black blood. Oh no," he's freaking out. She's like, "No, no, no, hey, it's okay." And then she finds the ring he was going to use to propose, and like I did like this scene where she like shows him like, "Hey, hey," and puts it on her finger, but he's dead. And so and then there's a moment where the kids go into the shed and they're both hiding under the water, and when I'm looking at him thinking of that nasty water getting all up in
Yeah.
his wounds, I'm like, nah, girl, he's gone. But I mean, okay, I would be fucked in this scenario if it was me and Alan. Like, he's so much taller than me. Like, her holding Michael Fassbender in the water, like, forget it for me. I all I can do is hide at this point. And so she leaves him behind, covered in palm fronds, and runs for help.
I don't know. I thought that was kind of funny.
Me
She's
too.
just sort of like, putting these little plants on him, and I'm like, what is this doing?
Just go. Like, but I guess that people have this, in both of these movies, have a really specific sense of like, we can't just leave the body out in the open.
Right.
And it's kind of like, well, okay. So Jenny, she's not having a good time. She steps on a metal spike that goes all the way through her foot. Oh, and at one point, she runs into Adam, the young boy that she met earlier, and asks her, can you go get, your mom to come get you? And he's like, she's at work. And she's like, well, can you lead me out of here? And this also, I was like, girl, he's obviously leading you deeper into the forest, which is exactly what he does because he's afraid of the bullies too. And he sits on a log and literally just calls it Brett, and they come back and get her. So they tie her up with Steve's dead body in a pile of woods, and Brett forces Adam to like throw the match in so that he is also implicated. And Jenny's able to escape because the rope burns, and then Brett is like, I'm gonna kill him if you don't come back. I really liked this scene. She's just like not even listening, thinking she's gone. And she obviously feels so horrible because this little, and I do like this about her character that like so we know she likes kids and she knows that they are complicated people. But yeah, it's not good for Adam because then Brett just gets pissed off and burns him alive, which is pretty horrible. We don't really see it, but we hear it and we know. So Jenny stumbles onto a little like map kiosk area and takes a map out of the display and then hides in a nasty smelling dumpster when the kids approach her. And so then when they leave, she like grabs like a little shard and wraps it in she gets really badass, like ripping her dress, wrapping it. But then the sweetest of the boys rounds the corner and goes, miss, like probably is going to say, I can help you. But she just wheels around and stabs him in the neck. And she kind of, then she holds him as he dies. But I like this too, because I mean, it is like you've turned this woman into like a caged animal. Like, I feel really bad for the kid, but you can't really blame Jenny. And so they find the boy's body, which there's his name's Cooper. And one of the gang, he's another like boy who is not, he kind of has been trying to be the voice of reason. And so in this moment too, he's like, dude, he knows immediately, like, listen, she killed him because we killed her boyfriend and are trying to kill her. And that pisses Brett off. So he just like beats the shit out of him, probably kills him. I don't think we know for sure, but I mean, like, he's stomping on him. And this makes the girl just run away. And so Jenny then flags down a guy in a car who's looking for his younger brother. And she's kind of like, turn around. And he's like, no, just 1 second. And he gets out and stops right at the fence of the construction site. But he's clearly this kid's brother, so she just steals the car and speeds away. Oh, I didn't realize this, that she ran over Paige.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah-oh.
Paige just sort of like walks out of the woods, like onto the path.
Oh, no.
And Jenny doesn't even slow down. She just books it, and the girl goes over the top of the car.
Which is fair, because that girl was a bitch. So Jenny makes it back to town, but then crashes the car outside a backyard party. And she wakes up and is being comforted by a woman who they're kind of like, Leo, hey, love, like, what's wrong with you? Like, what's going on? But then and she's just kind of trying to be like, call the police, help me. Because she starts to realize, she recognizes the guy whose house Steve had broken into is there. And then the other parents are informed of the dead children. And all of the parents of the children are at this house. So, they just see this woman as a child murderer. And, and this woman does not make it easy for herself by saying, I'm sorry, girl. You got to be like, that wasn't me. What dead kids? Yeah. But the fact that she said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Oh, you're dead. So she locks herself in the bathroom for protection. But then John, the really scary guy, kicks the door down. And so Brett says that she and Steve murdered his friends and his Rottweiler, because another great oh fuck moment is seeing another Rottweiler and then seeing a bowl that says Bonnie and Clyde. So Bonnie's the one that got killed. And the other men start to attack Jenny, and go like, they were just kids. So Brett goes up to his room to block out the sound of her screams as she is murdered, and deletes all the videos of the gang's crime, and then stares into the mirror in like a taxi driver moment, and then puts on Steve's sunglasses. The cycle of violence perpetuates itself. How fucked up that the most shitty kid is the one left over. What happened to the black kid also? Did we see him die?
I don't remember. No, I don't think so.
I think he actually made it out alive. So, but he was another psycho. He was I think he pulled out the knife. So the two most psychos live. And that's the world for you.
Yeah, and that sweet little innocent Cooper boy dies.
I know. He had asthma.
Oh my God.
And Adam.
Asthma.
And how are they going to explain this? Because even one guy, another adult, tries to be the voice of reason of like, there's dead kids. Like, people are going to come knocking around. But then John says, yeah, and we've got the answer right here. Like, it was these two, which, okay, sure. I hope nobody cares about them.
Yeah, but good point.
Yeah. But, so that's the end for Jenny and Steve. Well, what phobia is that? Xylophobia, also known as hylophobia, is an irrational fear of wooded areas. I feel like there's got to be a lot of people who got this. There's got to be a lot of people with like trauma with the woods. I feel like the woods can be a scary place, especially when you're a kid.
It's one of my favorite places, though. I mean, on the other side of that is like taking a bath, like a forest bath, just being surrounded by all that greenery. It's like supposed to be like really, really good.
And it feels good.
Nervous system. Yeah.
That Emerson guy knew what he was talking about. I too go to the woods to contemplate. Sean Dooley, who played John in this movie, has some experience with disruptive teens. He starred as Greg, an antisocial behavior order in the British channel 4 drama Misfits. Oh, I didn't realize he was in Misfits. I liked that show. I never finished it, but yeah.
But that was good.
When Jenny stares into the mirror before attacking and killing Cooper, you can just make out etched onto the mirror of the old park information board, the most dangerous animal in the forest.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. So 7 people died in order: Bonnie the dog, Steve, Adam, Cooper, Harry, Paige, and presumably Jenny. Yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that bitch ain't getting left alive.
No way.
Well, what does Letterboxd have to say about it? Your mom gave it a half star and said, "I've done shits better." Better. I assume they're British. Sarase gave it a half star. "Ruined my night. Dead ass. Wesley, if you ever see this, I hope your room is hot, gross, and humid tonight when you sleep, and you work a long shift in your dreams. Oh, and I hope you wake up in the middle of the night thirsty with nothing but 3 drops of water in your water bottle. This review is for you, you evil motherfucker. I'm so for real." Jesus Christ.
Wow.
Wesley, did you do more than just suggest this movie? Like, Sarase has it out for you.
I'm starting to think it isn't just this movie.
That's quite the curse. I have sent a few hexes to people. Like, I told a friend the other day whose dad is not a nice person. I told her, like, by the way, whenever I think of your dad, I hope that he has a bad day. And she was like, thank you. And those are kind of what my curses are like. I like to think, like, I hope your favorite restaurant gets, put out of business and you never got the last chance to eat there. I think that one's good. You not having any water in your water bottle. Now you got to get up. Nothing too crazy, okay? Meg's Popcorn gave it a half star. Movie got me fucking mad. Never had my blood this boiled by a group of kids. They're not real.
Yeah, they're fictional kids.
And I looked it up, not based on a true story. Because at first I was like, this feels like it could have been, but
oh my God.
Google said no. And then Mizum VNDS gave it a half star. Ass cheeks.
And I really feel sorry to the creators of this film because I forgot to put 5-star reviews.
I know. I was like,
section.
Huh. Nobody liked it, actually.
No. Good reviews of this film do exist, but I just forgot to put them in. So
we very
apologies.
Sorry to Mr. James Watkins. Please don't contact us. Well, how would we rate it?
Dead Rottweilers? No.
Oh no!
Sorry.
How about empty food bowls?
Oh.
So maybe that was sadder. Matches?
Oh. There's nothing good in this film. I mean, all right. I mean, it's so bleak. It's just so bleak, and it's like just kind of relentlessly bleak. Like,
I do not like horror movies like this, where it just feels like, what's the point? Mm-hmm. This is what I would call torture porn. Like, when that extended scene of her pulling that spike out of her foot, I was like, torture porn. That's what it is. And I personally don't love seeing women in distress that much. Like, I feel like it's always women. Like, he at least got, well, okay, Steve did get tortured, but, we see Jenny go through it. I feel like seeing your partner be tortured in front of you would be torture. So I think she got it worst in this movie. So yeah, I would give it like 2.5, 3.
2.5 matchbooks.
Yeah, 2.5 matchbooks.
Yeah, I did not enjoy this film. And I was going to watch it twice for the podcast. But I couldn't bring myself to do that. So
that's fair.
Yeah, 2.5. I'm fine with that.
Because I do feel like if you like this genre, it's very good at that
good version. Yeah.
Yeah, like they know what they're doing. I just happen to not.
Yeah, same.
What have we learned? Just go. Just leave.
Just leave. Yeah, you don't have to die on that hill.
No. For some teenagers, like...
No, come on.
I saw this, there's a guy named Matt Orchard on YouTube who does like true crime stuff. And I'm not super a big fan of true crime, but he he does like go over, just gives you like all the details. And so there was this one thing where it was, I mean, it's not that similar, but it was this case where this one guy, like a older guy, was like stabbed and killed a teen, but there was cell phone footage and all these teens were like making fun of him and like, and so then the debate was, well, did he have to stab him? And it was conclusively like, no, you don't. There's plenty of ways to de-escalate. So yeah, I would say if you want to learn how to do anything, de-escalate. Like there's like nothing good can come out of angering people. If you want to get people acting with the least amount of sense and logic, make them angry.
Yeah. I really
so yeah.
agree with that.
Yeah. I think we've learned stay in your lane and, hey, if they want to take up the beach, there's plenty of beach.
Yeah. And she even said that to him, but he didn't listen.
Happy wife, happy life. Would we watch it again? Probably not.
No, probably not. Oh,
did you hear that?
Yes.
He likes to scream. He's not even doing. He just walked in here and just was like, favorite scene and or kill. Tough to pick a favorite kill when it's like children.
Mm-hmm. If I had to pick one though, I'd say Cooper.
Yeah, I mean that one was brutal.
Yeah, and I really I thought the direction in some of this was pretty weird. Like Fassbender's like shaking, and maybe that's a form of shock, and that's realistic. But he just looked like the director told him, "Okay, shake a bunch."
Yeah,
but when the kid died, he was kind of spasming, and I thought that's probably how he would go.
Yeah, and I did like that because she's trying to hold him, but he's also like, this woman just stabbed me, So I think I'd pick that scene too. I think it's the most like, oh no, like it's so sad for Jenny too, since she's such a supposedly kind, caring person. So, who wins the You Fool Award? Steve.
Yeah, hands
full
down.
stop. Yeah.
So continuing on in our forest horror genre, we have The Ritual. Here is a short plot summary from IMDb. A group of old college friends reunite for a trip to a most dangerous country in Europe, Sweden, encountering a menacing presence there stalking them.
Never thought of Sweden as a dangerous country.
Me neither. This was directed by David Bruckner, screenplay by Joe Barton, based on The Ritual by Adam Neville, and it stars Rafe Spall, Arshur Ali, Robert James Collier, and James Troughton. Cinematography by Andrew Schulkind, edited by Mark Towns, and music by Ben Lovett. The release dates were the 8th of September 2017 at TIFF and the 13th of October 2017 in the UK. It has a running time of 94 minutes. What did you think about this runtime, Mac?
I liked it. I feel like it was a little bit wasted. I will say, out of all the people who worked on this, Joe Barton, I don't think you did a good job. I'll say it, and I'll mean it too. Because I asked Mom, and she very kindly allowed me to let me get on a soapbox real quick. Because when we found out this was based on a novel, we both read it. I did not finish it, but I've read enough to know that I feel like Mr. Joe Barton heard somebody else describe the plot and then wrote it down hurriedly on a napkin, and then he was like, I got the gist. And I do feel as though the movie could have been a bit better had he followed the source material, because there was some good stuff there. Notably, okay, my thing is, the original plot is so relatable. It's friends reuniting, but time and long-held issues have kept them apart. And as they
Mhm.
begin to deteriorate, you really can kind of see where everyone's coming from. I do feel like if it was me, I'd be like, these guys are assholes. I'm never hanging out with them again. If I was Luke. But also, Luke has some problems. He's got anger issues, and the anger issues are not explored in the movie at all. And I feel like they're very interesting as somebody who also has times where I get very, very irrationally angry and feel as though like specifically there's a whole scene where he feels as though he's watching himself and doesn't recognize the words he's saying. Like, I have been in that
Mhm.
situation and it's scary. And when you realize you have a part of you that you cannot control, is that not like the forest untouched by man? Um, and and even when it comes to the end, I have not finished the end, but even from what I've seen of the end, a lot was cut out. And they add this whole plot line of, okay, guys, tell me which situation you've been in. Have you ever had friends that you've grown apart from? Maybe you went to school together and some of them are closer than you are and you feel left out. Has that ever happened to you? Okay. Have you ever been in a store and witnessed your friend be murdered by somebody and then you hid, and instead of your friends thinking, oh, thank God both of you weren't killed, they're just feel as though it was your fault. You should have been Superman and saved your friend. Has that ever happened to you?
Mm.
I don't think it's happened to anybody in the world ever. So, and even the plotline doesn't make any sense of like, oh, you should have done something. Done what? Like, what friend would do that? What friend would not say, I'm so glad at least both of my friends weren't murdered? Like, the fact that that doesn't even come to them ever is just dumb. So, anyways, that soapbox over. The movie is very beautiful. I just feel as though sometimes you don't need to like, we're not stupid. And it sometimes does feel like Joe Barton thinks we are.
Not just Joe Barton, but I totally take your point. I mean, I feel like, this is just like, let's make it really, really simple for the audience to understand. And the novel is so much more subtle. I mean, this whole character of Rob doesn't even exist in the novel. So and
The, the,
I remember liking the flashbacks to the liquor store. But this time I was like, I don't know. There were one too many of those, I thought.
yeah, they kept kind of happening. And I think it's very, relatable to have PTSD, but just if it could be, even if they kept the non-existent Rob character who supposedly was the best of us and the best guy ever, so we have to go hiking for him. Um, just what psychotic friend would be like almost they wish it had been Luke who got killed. And that's crazy. Like, that's just so crazy and it makes no sense. Like, I could see Luke feeling guilty, but
Mm-hmm.
I think that survivor's guilt, very relatable. But the idea that any of the friends would think it was his fault is so like, you never liked him anyway,
Right.
which is explored in the novel. This idea of maybe they actually weren't as good of friends as they all thought. That's very relatable. And
Mm-hmm.
the whole reason why they're freaking hiking is because one of them has so much less money than the other ones. Very relatable. So,
Yes.
and now the idea that it's like, well, we all have to go hiking because, well, Rob, this guy that none of the audience has ever met, well, he loved it. And oh, he would love this view. Well, I don't know if he would. So, soapbox over.
That's great soapbox, though.
Thank you.
So Rosie has joined the pod, so we'll see how much she wants to contribute. Oh, she's gone. Okay. In a pub, five friends, Phil, Dom, Hutch, Luke, and Rob, discuss plans for a holiday. Rob suggests hiking in Sweden, but gets rebuffed. Afterward, Luke and Rob leave to purchase alcohol, but get involved in a robbery which soon turns violent. While Luke hides, The robbers harass and eventually kill Rob. I mean, it's a really powerful scene. One thing I was thinking about is he's killed um, by knife.
Mm-hmm.
He's killed by a knife, and I feel like in the UK or in certain countries in Asia where guns are really hard to come by, I think these kind of deaths are like more horrifying than like gun deaths. And this one is pretty nasty. Like he is like slashed, like the back of his head is slashed. Um, and yeah, I mean, I really don't know. There's um, fight or flight. There's also freeze. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that Luke had a very real and understandable reaction.
And it was the correct reaction to have. I know Rob did not help he was there, but of course, it is never anybody's fault if they get murdered. Not that this person's real anyway, but he does get murdered because he refuses to give them his wedding ring. And I really feel like, hey, bud, I think your wife would appreciate your life more than your ring.
Mm-hmm.
Like that also, I guess I had trouble identifying with because if it was me and I'm staring down, two guys who like, because mind you, when they walk in, it's kind of weird because there's nobody at the counter. And this I also don't understand. There's a woman who's been beaten. So she's the worker there. So they left and came back? Or so like that part was also kind of like, what actually happened? Like why?
Yeah, there was something in the back room, but I don't know. Maybe the safe is in the back,
Yeah,
you know.
maybe.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't explained.
And like the guy gives his wallet, his phone, but he really has a hard line about the ring, and I just don't see anybody being like this, especially like of like all. It's like, okay, the engagement ring for a lady is usually very pricey, but the fucking wedding band, like,
Mm-hmm.
again, if you told your wife, hey, listen, I still have my life, she'd be like, thank God, honey, you survived. She wouldn't be like,
Yeah.
I see your ring's gone. I guess you left it to them. I guess you don't give a shit about us.
Yeah, it really doesn't make any sense at all. And I don't even think you'd think about it. I think you'd just be like, sure, man, sure. Like, whatever you
Yes,
want.
exactly. You'd be
Take
like,
my.
yeah, here you go. Thank you. I'll keep my life now because they've already seen a woman has been beaten.
Yeah,
So very weird. I think
doesn't make a whole lot of
I
sense.
think Mr. Excuse me one moment, Mr. Joe Barton, because I want to let everyone know this is the person to blame because I think the other people in this film did a great job. But it was Mr. Barton's input. I think they could have found,
Wow.
yeah.
6 months later, the remaining four start a hiking trip along the Kungsleden in northern Sweden in memory of Rob. I really liked the shrine that they created, and they have like a photograph, and they all drink from the same flask, and then they pour the rest out for Rob, and then they put the flask there. And I think it's really nice, and it sets up the next scene when the rain starts, and so the shrine is just being destroyed by the rain. I just thought that was really pretty nice. So, Joe, that part was
I'll
pretty
let you
good.
have it. Also, nobody says anything to Luke like, "Hey, again, I'm so glad you survived. I know that must have been horrible witnessing our dear friend be murdered right in front of your eyes. Hey, buddy, are you doing okay?" They're all just kind of looking at him like, "Well, we know whose
Mm-hmm.
fault it is." So
Yeah,
crazy.
really crazy. And it would have been so much better if that was all in Luke's head and
Yes.
it wasn't real.
Yes.
But they are so heavy handed with this stuff. And I mean, Dom overtly later, says as much. But I mean, if this had all just been in his imagination, I think it would have been so much more powerful.
I would be so down for that. And like if his anger issues, maybe we got some alcoholism in there, are all
Mm-hmm.
coming together cuz they show him smoking, but like his nicotine dependence is like a part of the novel,
Oh,
he's
yeah,
got an
very
addictive
big part.
personality. So that is all great, and that
And
would have been great
also,
to explore.
small nitpick, but I really don't like it when non-smokers are smokers in movies. This guy, there's one shot, I think it may have been like at the shrine where he's like, or just like they hike up a mountain and he sits down and has a smoke. And he's sitting there for a while, and the ash has gotten so long that any normal smoker would just like flick it to get it
Hmm.
off the cigarette. He just lets it fall. And I'm like, buddy, you are not a smoker, and it shows. But nobody on the staff or cast could have like
Yeah.
said, this looks really weird. Anyway.
And also, there's just other things that they left out. Like Phil, I feel as though has no character now. Like he kind of was maybe the weakest character in the novel anyway, but like who even is he, Whereas I feel like Dom, okay, you're an asshole. And then Hutch is trying to be the peacemaker. But I think Phil's role was always supposed to be like the guy who let the shit talking happen, And he might as well just be dead weight. And I feel like a great part again of the novel was this conflict of they told everybody, hey, you got to get in shape for this hike. And we have two people who have clearly never done a hike and they are wearing, shoes they haven't broken in and stuff.
Right.
And I do think it is a little bit like, I've read a few books like this where it just feels like they just have one specific fat person in mind that they hate with all their heart that they're writing about, which I don't appreciate. But I do understand the frustration that would be there. It's such a great conflict in the book because Luke is on the outs of this friendship with everybody, even Hutch. But he also has a sense of like, well, I prepared. I did all this stuff. He's got this like, nobody's looking at me or seeing the input I'm doing, and these guys aren't even trying. And I think that's so relatable. But
yeah, but it's not there in the movie. After Dom injures his knee, Hutch suggests cutting through the forest rather than following the marked trail. Luke is against it, but Dom insists if there is a shortcut, they should use it. Upon entering the forest, the group comes across a gutted and hanged elk and mysterious symbols carved in the trees.
that would be so scary.
Yeah, totally. And the thing is, I thought in the book, and I remembered this differently than the first time I had seen the film. And so I saw the film, I read the book, and I saw the film again. I had the impression that these bodies were like impossibly high in the trees.
They're supposed to be.
There's no way a human being could get a body of an elk or a human being up that high. And I felt like these were higher than the men. They were maybe it was like 10 feet tall, but it wasn't like impossibly high. So that was a little annoying to me as well.
Because it's supposed to be this idea of like megafauna in the forest. You have these giant trees. What could have done this? Is it even something we can conceptualize as men, But they're kind of like, maybe a bear? I don't know. In the book, this is where the like story starts, and it's supposed to be like the trip is now forever not normal now that they've seen this, and they then go a little flashback, but like it kind of feels like they're just like, well, that was weird.
Yeah, they don't spend a whole lot of time on it at all. The pacing of the movie is really different than the book too, because in the book, Phil dies like almost immediately. And I remember when you were reading the book, you were like, oh my God, like
where does it even go now?
Left. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I felt like that too, but it's not that way in the film. Anyway, at night, a torrential rainstorm forces them to take shelter in an abandoned cabin. They find necklaces bearing similar symbols and an effigy of a decapitated human torso made of twigs with antlers for hands. During the night, Luke has a nightmare about the robbery. The next morning, Luke awakens to find his chest bleeding from puncture wounds, Hutch screaming in terror and having wet himself, a catatonic Dom screaming for his wife Gail, and a naked Phil praying to the effigy. Disturbed, the group tries to leave the woods through a side trail not shown on the map, despite Luke's protests. While discerning their location, Luke spots a large figure amongst the trees, but Dom doubts him. In their ensuing argument, Luke claims they wouldn't be in the forest if it weren't for Dom, and Dom calls Luke a coward for letting Rob die.
And I would have, I think, so I watched the movie years ago and then read the book and then watched it again. And it really did not stick in my mind, but I had thought in the book, there's like a whole moment where Luke's anger gets the better of him and he literally beats the shit out of Dom. And I'm like, why not have that in the movie? I think that's a great scene because then the rest of the like crew is scared of him because he's a threat to their safety. And I think he's already feeling on the outs. But then if you really felt like, you know, like I've had moments where like I maybe have raised my, out of anger, have raised my voice at like my cats. And then I see that they're afraid. And that feeling is so painful when you realize that you have made somebody that you're supposed to care for, like afraid of you. And I just feel like that would be such a delicious thing to explore in a film. And I was like waiting for it. And then I was like, oh, he didn't even beat the shit out of him. Because also it's great in the book because you're like, Dom has it coming. It's not appropriate to do, but like he does have it coming. And he then is like a little boy almost, it says. Like he's just like crying like he's petulant and stuff. And because I mean, I think I would too. And he's like, I don't want him near me. And I just feel like that would be awesome.
But they couldn't do that because Luke is so gripped with guilt that, you know, he sort of accepts it on some level, you know.
Yeah.
And so his character really is different than it is in the book. As they continue hiking, they find an abandoned tent overgrown in foliage with a backpack and a wallet that has a credit card that expired in 1984.
And I do love one guy just goes like, well, that's not a good sign. Nope.
Everyone but Hutch sees it as a bad sign, but Hutch says they must be close to the lodge and on a path that others use. Later that night, the group is awakened by Phil's screams. Hutch is missing, and his tent has partially collapsed. The remaining three search for him, but by dawn, they realize they are lost. Eventually, they find a gutted Hutch impaled on tree branches, and give him an impromptu burial.
Yeah, how can they even get far enough to take him down?
That doesn't make any sense.
Mm-mm.
I didn't understand how they got his body down.
Yeah.
But they would, but yes, if they're going to do that, and this is going to come back later about the body being exposed to the elements, then the bodies can't be impossibly high in the trees. But that's why it's so scary.
Because it's another worldly being. Also, Mom, I was looking so hard for those eyes. I don't know if people were being for real. Like, well, I don't know. Maybe I missed it.
I just heard a Scaredy Boys podcast, and they were talking about the ritual. And one of them said apparently the eyes appear, you know, throughout the film. But I forgot to look. And so I encouraged you to look. But yeah, maybe they can't be seen. That would be cool if they could be. But WoHos, get in touch. Around sunset, Phil is attacked and dragged away by an unseen creature. Luke and Dom flee. They find a torch-lined path leading to a small settlement. Upon rushing into a cottage, they are knocked unconscious.
And here I also begin to be like Joe. I don't think Joe finished the book, to be fair. Because from here, like something that I love in the book is Dom and Luke are the last ones left. And you do get closure with them. Like you do get a little bit of closure of like, because there's no dead friend, but you know, there's been this growing tension of like Luke has kind of been a free spirit, doesn't have a job or a wife, but he envies this in his friends. Meanwhile, it might seem like Dom has it all because he has a wife and kids and a good job, but actually he's in debt and his wife just divorced him and he's not, he can not see his kids very often. So they have a great heart to heart where they're both like expressing to each other that they envy the other one and that they've been wrong for being such assholes to each other. And they encourage, like, Dom at first is like, leave me. But then, Luke is so like, I will. At first, Luke had been thinking like, I'm gonna fucking leave, fuck this guy. But then he's like, after this talk, I could never leave this guy. And that's such a beautiful moment. But no. Like, you get no closure with those two. Like, you get a moment of Dom being like, you live and you tell my wife that I tried to get back to her. Fuck off. Maybe I won't, because you still think I like, there's never a moment where Dom is like, listen, but I was wrong for that. That's horrible.
Yeah. And yeah, well, I mean, I don't think that would have taken a whole bunch, a couple lines of dialogue.
Yeah.
Luke and Dom awake to find themselves restrained in a basement. An elderly woman inspects Luke's chest wounds, revealing she bears a similar marking. Two men drag Dom upstairs, and Luke is left alone to hear Dom's screams and wails. He is later returned, beaten and bruised, to the basement. Dom says he will be sacrificed to the creature and urges Luke to flee. He says that in his dream, a bunch of people offered him up as a sacrifice, and he saw his wife, Gail. Later, while Dom is tied up outside by the townsfolk, Luke begins freeing himself from the restraints. And is this where the thumb break is? Yeah. Pretty awful.
Torture porn.
Yeah.
It's such a long scene of him breaking his thumb. And even when he breaks it, he doesn't even leave immediately.
No. We've got to have the scene with the young woman after that. Amidst the ritual, Dom hallucinates his wife emerging from the forest, only to realize it is the creature as it picks him up and impales him on a nearby tree.
Do love this creature. Great job with the creature. It's kind of like Smile. I loved the creature in Smile too, also. And like, it's kind of similar, just like, what even is it? It's so scary.
It is really scary. It's like what a child would draw. I mean, it's just like really crazy. It kind of like, from a distance, it looks like a moose. It's got a moose head, but then it has these like spikes on its back. But then when it like stands up a little later, it just transforms into this whole other thing.
And it's got like two bright, just like white lights of eyes.
And then it's got these hands that are just sort of like, oh. A young woman explains to Luke that the creature is the giant deer-like Jotun Moder, an ancient godlike entity and offspring of Loki that grants the cult immortality in exchange for sacrifices. Luke is to either worship Moder or be sacrificed. After she leaves, Luke frees himself and ventures upstairs. Armed with a torch, Luke finds a congregation of mummified worshippers that begin to move and sets them alight, burning the cabin and attracting Moder. Luke finds a hunting rifle and heads downstairs, killing a cult member and taking an axe. The enraged Jotun kills the young woman while Luke shoots at it and escapes.
I hate this female character. Again, I feel as though they were like, man need woman, and woman help man. Because a woman and men, whereas in the novel, this is my catchphrase, in the novel, it could have been even more like Eden Lake, because what is so frustrating in the novel is that he's been captured by these like death metal Norwegian kids who are like, oh, we're gonna summon a real and even like, he's like, there's a demon in the woods, and they go on this whole rant of just like, no, it ain't a demon. You Christians think, of course they couldn't have this for Americans. They couldn't include this in a movie, but they go on this whole rant about how Christianity has ruined everything. That Christians need to think of everything within their own framework, that even they say demon when this is a god and so much cooler than a demon. And like he realizes that he's talking to like teenagers who are stupid, and it gives him a sense of like, maybe I can get out of this because this is a human problem. And but it's also scary because they're crazy. And I just got through a great scene where he's talking to a guy named Loki. And it even says he's trying not to like the guy because the guy's like, listen, Luke, like, sorry, I went Russian, but it's, I'm excited to see where it goes. Uh, and I just feel like that's so much scarier. Like the idea of being held captive by just crazy teens who are like, let's summon an ancient god, than this weird. And also, why would they be speaking in English to him? Like, I don't know. Like, it just made no sense for this lady to talk to him and give him this info. Whereas in the book, it makes sense because it's like a teen kid who's like pissed off and is like, no, I'll tell you what, you know? Just tisk tisk, Joe Barton.
Motor pursues Luke, crippling his mind with hallucinations of Rob's death before catching and forcing him to his knees. Luke refuses to submit, strikes it with the axe, then flees. He runs toward the hill, seeing rays of sunlight, and emerges in an open field. Unable to leave the forest, the motor angrily roars. Luke shouts back in triumph and heads toward a paved road.
I love the scene where it just keeps pushing his head down. That is so scary.
Super scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Luke is like, fuck that. He's not going to submit to this god. He's not going to worship it. Also, by the way, who wants immortality anyway?
What life are they living? They're like, we are free without death or age. And they're all disgusting and dirty and living in a hovel in the middle of nowhere. Like, awesome. Great. I love this.
They can look forward to be turned into these like mummy creatures, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, that's not really life to me. And anyway, you can be killed randomly at any time anyway.
By a random British guy.
Well, not just that, but the at least in the film.
Oh, like by the
creature just takes the young woman and just slams her to the ground.
Yeah.
Because he's just angry.
Yeah.
So, or she, I don't know if she's I don't know the gender of the monster. What phobia is that? Megalophobia is the fear of large objects.
I got that.
I got it. It's a specific phobia characterized by intense anxiety and avoidance of large things like buildings, vehicles, or even big people. I don't have it that bad, but I'll tell you one thing. When I'm on the road and there's one of those like mega trucks that's like its wheels are as tall as my car, I'm just like, I'm for sure going to die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I got it not necessarily with like people, like I'm not like seeing random people like, but like sometimes like Alan has tried to like show me something by like doing it on me by being like, well, we were like this, and then it's like him in front of me doing something menacing. I'm like, no. Like, I just can't be in the situation. I think I've got like a prey mindset where like, I'm like, nope. This is not safe. I can't do it.
Yeah. And whenever I'm in really big cities like Chicago or like Vancouver or something like that, it's just like the tall buildings like really freak me out.
Yes. I got so scared the other day. I went by North Hills, and when I just looked at them, I was like, oh, so scary.
The original tagline that was used when advertising the film was, "They should have gone to Vegas." But due to the massacre in Vegas that took place on the 1st of October 2017, the tagline has now been changed to, "They should have gone to Ibiza."
And that actually makes more sense, I think, as the tagline, because I think for Europeans, getting there, that would be a much different trip than flying to America.
And this wasn't in the film. And I know, we're really like reviewing the film and not the book. But in the book, one of them just has no money. And
Yeah.
so there's no way that they ever could have gone to Vegas anyway. The film was shot in the Carpathian Mountains of Romania. And let me just
Wow.
say, they look gorgeous.
So beautiful. Like there's so many scenes where there's all these trees and they have branches growing, like they're called like advantageous branches or advantageous growths, and they do look like antlers, and it's like, ooh, it's creepy.
It's really so cool. In the final act of the movie, the cultists can be heard chanting the word blote. This refers to the Asatruar ritual practice of offering food, alcoholic beverages, and on occasions human sacrifices to the gods whose favor they sought. All right, I'm going to skip the last one. Okay, Letterboxd. C.F. Fowler gave it 5 stars. Horrifying. I'll never go camping again. Bullsman69 gave it 5 stars. Do not watch this. Hi, what the fuck? Amazing movie, though.
Yeah, I don't think I would enjoy it high.
Yeah, the creature itself, there's just like one shot of it where it just like extends itself to its full height. And I don't get high. And I was like, what the fuck?
I feel like the creature could have even been bigger in the movie. I think they could have gone way bigger, like as big as the trees. That would be cool.
Shay gave it 5 stars. Motor should have been billing therapy hours. I think she knows it.
I think she does too.
Yeah. But Nawabisa Ashley gave it a half star. Half a star. The accents annoyed me, and the movie is just weird.
That's crazy. The accents annoyed me. They're just British. I mean,
they're just English. That's it.
And they're not even that crazy of like British. I think it's like the most, they call it RP, like the most RP British accent ever of just like, you know, you're run of the mill Brit.
Army March Girl gave it a half star. Never letting my sister pick another movie again.
I feel like there always needs to be a review now that's like at somebody who recommended the movie.
Those are my absolute favorite. My second most absolute favorite is by the Dolphin 11, who gave it a half star. The boy said it was good, TBH. It was ass.
There's the ass.
There were a lot of ass ones, actually. One was this shit is so ass. And then there was shitty ass. Yeah, lots of variations on that theme. How would we rate it?
Antlers?
Sure, antlers.
I think I'd give it like 3 and a broken antler.
Oh, wow. I was like, I'm going to rate it higher than Mac for sure. I mean, I don't think I would give it 4. And this is out of 5. So I think I'd give it 3.5 as well.
Because like the thing I think now, it's like almost forbidden knowledge now, having read the book. I think my rating would have been way higher not reading the book. And it is nice. Almost, I kind of felt this way when I saw the movie We Need to Talk About Kevin, because I know a movie can never give you the full, picture of a book. But I feel like they had so much else going for it. I think the casting, besides, I think Luke was, I know I had seen the movie before I read the book, but it'd been a while, exactly how I imagined him. I think the acting was all right, and the forest was a great pick. The monster looked amazing. It's like I loved the story so much that I wish I had more of it, and I think they could have done it. Now I'm even getting mad. The fact that Dom does legit get beat up in it, just not, yeah. I feel like they remembered it halfway, like, oh, fuck. Okay, let's just beat him up real quick. Like,
I mean, he's punched. I mean, I wouldn't really say he's beaten up. I mean,
but no, like by the cultists.
Oh, by the cultists, yeah.
Which like doesn't make sense either. Now, like, why did they bring him back? Yeah.
So they took him up to that room with the mummified people in it, right? And that's why he was wailing and screaming.
I honestly don't even know what they were doing with him.
And were they saying, if you worship this god, you can have
Oh,
immortality? And he
I
was
don't think
like,
so.
nah, just sacrifice me.
I don't think
No,
so because
I guess Luke is special because he had the puncture wounds.
and they don't mention this in the movie, but in the book, this is talked about of like Luke, he's kind of not built for the modern world. They kind of say like he out of all of them has the survival instinct and they actually like that, the cult or the cultists in the book. So I think that's what they were getting at, but it's never talked about. So
Well, in this case, I think some Redditors were saying that it's because of his trauma and he's been
yeah, because the
marked.
lady's like, oh, you've seen shit, but it's
Yeah.
like, hey, they all lost a friend.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, his guilt sort of trumps his PTSD. I think
Mm-hmm.
seeing your friend get killed, in real time would cause so much PTSD that like you'd be a wreck. But that's not really spoken of. What's really, it's his guilt because he didn't like rush the attackers, which
Is such again, something that I can never imagine in my life saying to somebody, even a stranger. Like,
no. Well, what have we learned, Mac?
if a guy tells you he knows a goddamn shortcut, don't believe him. And if you're going to go hiking, don't leave it up to somebody else. I think everybody involved should know how to get their way out of the place.
Oh, that's really good. And make sure that you pack the right shoes.
Yes. And like, just like the idea that he looked at Forest and was like, let's go. Like, if
Right.
there's trees, that means don't go there.
Right. Especially like in a country you don't know and you don't know the language, even if you were to come across somebody, how are you going to ask them for help? I mean, I guess now we'd be in better shape. If you can get reception, you could do like Google Translate or something. But if you're like in bumfuck Forestville,
Yeah.
you're screwed.
Yeah.
Would we watch it again?
I would.
I'd watch it again.
I'd honestly watch the ending again. Like, I just rewind and look at that monster.
Yeah, it's so cool. Do you have a favorite scene or kill?
The ending. I think it really steals the show, and it's going to be the one thing you remember about the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I did like that shrine thing. When I first saw that, I was
Yes.
just like, oh, they are really onto something. But
and it would be so scary to find. I did like in this movie, I think more so than in the book, they had Phil like really be affected by the fact that he was forced to worship it. And I think that would be so scary to find a friend just like that would be the scariest thing. And so that's pretty great.
Yeah, that whole section where they all have nightmares inside the cabin. That's really, really good. And even Hutch is like, look, man, they're like, after they leave, they're like, are we going to talk about that? And Hutch is like, no, man, like I wet myself. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So understandable. Who wins the You Fool award?
Hutch.
Yeah. Although in the film, Hutch was correct in that they had to go southwest. Like
That's
he had
true.
the compass and he was like telling Luke, when you get out of here, Dom can't walk because of his knee and Phil can't walk because of his boots. This is the night Hutch is killed. But before he's killed, he like gives him all this advice and he's like, and keep going southwest.
Yes. And yeah, I guess I'll still say Hutch because just because the most petulant one of your group says, no, I'm going this way. If they have no hiking experience, why would you let them dictate where to go?
Yeah,
like take your life into your own hands, man.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Well, thank you, Mac, for having this conversation with me today about forest horror.
It was such a pleasure. I loved it.
Can you say it in the North Carolina accent again?
Forest horror.
Accurate. And thank you, WoHos, for joining us and for all your support. It means the world of horror to us truly. Next time, we'll be looking at obsession over art films with The Perfection and Stop Motion. Remember, WoHos, we love you, and don't go into the basement.
We did it!